Emission treatment from any incinerating plant is complex and is very expensive. Operators around the world, wherever you go, they have a history of over-promising and under-delivering. There we go, even with the best intentions. And sometimes they do so at criminal level. You get fined and people get sentenced. British Columbia has no regulations for the maximum amount of hazardous substances which can be absorbed in any one location. The important thing here is the authorities here, they're focusing on maximizing the looking to the maximum concentrations of anything leaving a stack or a plant. So, but if my concentration is very high, what do? I dilute it. And so I'm within the limits. But the people at the other end who get the chemicals, they get the same amount of chemicals over the years, because chemicals cannot leave the area. It's very, very important to understand that the total amount of the pollutants doesn't change. Now another important thing is emission standards all around the world, wherever you go. They are primarily based on technical feasibility and also on political feasibility. They're not necessarily based on health risks. If you think back, just to give you an example, a really good example, Chernobyl, the nuclear explosion we got in the former Soviet Union, and all the radiative cloud went across Western Europe. Well, each country from Britain, France, Italy, Germany, Scandinavia, they had different standards regarding food consumption. In some countries, people were allowed to eat mushrooms that had 10,000, 100,000 times a higher radiation level than in other countries. So you see, it's all based on political feasibility. In some countries, they were shocked about the others. In other countries, they said, hey, you guys are just green widows or whatever. You know? So that is very important. Emissions are not, the standards are not necessarily based, very often are not based on real health issues. Now I'd like to move on a little bit on incineration and talk about toxic product. This is not an anti-smoking campaign here, but it's a really good example. Tobacco. When you look at tobacco for a cigarette, look at it, what is it made of? There are about 300 natural components. Some of them are toxic. When you ignite your cigar, immediately you generate more than 4,000 new components. There's an awful lot of chemical processing happening in that incineration environment there. 40 of those are, of course, carcinogenic. Now, very important, that's why I put it on here, is the next item, which you see, incomplete combustion. If you don't suck air anymore into that cigarette, but leave it on the ashtray, you will have incomplete combustion. And the compounds, the chemical compounds that are being developed at that point are 100 to 1,000 times more toxic than when you are sucking in air and have more complete combustion. Now, what has a cigarette with tobacco to do with waste? Well, of course, the waste incineration is based on many more components, thousands of components that come into the incinerator. But the important thing is, in no incinerator, gasifier, anyway, would we have complete combustion. The standards, the legal standards, anywhere we go, allow a certain amount of carbon monoxide. Wherever you have carbon monoxide, you have not complete combustion. You would get carbon dioxide. Carbon monoxide is a poisonous thing that our smoke detectors detect in the households. They give alarm. So the important thing is, nowhere can we get complete combustion. So the chemicals that are generated are very dangerous. Later we will hear from Paul about the danger of dioxins and furans. They are amongst the most, amongst all the chemicals that are being created in this environment of an incinerator or gasifier, and they're the most dangerous chemicals in the world. I don't know why everybody is focusing on swine flu rather than on dioxin these days, but we will hear later what it is. There's also dust and fine dust particles being generated. Fine dust is very, very dangerous, and we'll come back to this in a minute. Nitrogen oxides, NOxes, you may have seen this one, is another important chemical. NOxes, they generate acid rain, they sour the soils, and in the ground level they're the reason for ozone formation. Ozone in the atmosphere is really good, protects us down here. It makes our eyes itch and tear. It results in breathing problems for children and many other people. So it's a big issue in beautiful areas in Europe. I haven't felt it here yet, but I'm sure it would come. So the nitrogen oxides, the NOxes, are very important. Fine dust. That's something new. This is from the BC Air Action Plan of last year, June 2008. And it says, BC is working to reduce levels of fine dust, particulate matter, and ground level ozone, nitrogen oxides, the two most harmful contributors to air pollution. Outdoor air pollution is contributing to as many as 250 deaths every year in British Columbia. So it's contributing to that one. That's just one statement here. I'd like to show you another statement. The European Union Commission said, that's the official figure, accepted by everybody there, 65,000 people die every year in Germany on causes attributed to air pollution. And I'd like to show you another one, another statement from the World Health Organization. Let's add 10 micrograms of fine dust per cubic meter in air will lead to a half-a-year reduction in life expectancy of the total population. That's the average. Now, in the European Union, it's accepted that people die 9 months earlier on average because of fine dust and the related illnesses. So it's not only people dying from it, actually, we have to see a lot of people are suffering asthma and all types of other things. So these are 3 statements made, and they are the official ones. So we cannot ignore that. So, fine dust and incinerators. Why are we interested in this one? Well, these modern incinerators and gasifiers, they need higher temperatures than average because of the toxic chemicals to destroy them. It has been proven technically that the higher the temperature, the finer the dust particles. So it's a vicious cycle here. We get finer particles from higher temperatures. Finer dust gets into our lungs, stays there for many years, and as you can imagine, children are always at high risk. Particles can travel long distances. Typically 40% of the particles stay within 5 kilometers of the area in the wind direction. Well, many fine particles are formed after the filtration. After all the exhausts go through the filter units, go up the stack. That's where they're formed. That's very important here. Fine dust absorbs highly toxic molecules as well. Because they have a high surface area, can absorb all those nice molecules. Fine dust is absorbed by all types of plants, including the edible plants, particularly parsley, cabbage, and mushrooms. So you can guess where they end up at the end. Oops. All right, that was one too much. Now, I'd also like to mention one thing. If you have a filter unit in an incinerator, and the filter filters out the coarse particles, or the ones we can see, the fine particles have no surface area anymore to sit on. So if you have a filter, get the coarse parts out, the fine dust has a free path to go anywhere. That's no